a very, very intense journey.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Frameskip. This is, I think this is episode 145.
That's right. What happened to the energy? This sucks.
What are you talking about? No, I'm just playing. This is your weekly dose of video game goodness, I guess. I don't know. I used to have pre-written intros for shows, and that's one of the secrets I had to being a good host. And then I could never come up with one for Frameskip, so that's why our show opening is so rocky when I host. With me is Andie Eller.
What's going on, Seth? It's like a glove. Like you're just fitting right back into hosting, like riding a bike.
It's not quite like riding a bike, but more like fishing. Like you have a general idea how to fish.
Yeah.
And, but you lose that technique, but you gotta really work your way back into it. You gotta be like, oh yeah, this is how I tie it. This is how I tie a fly.
And like sometimes you might catch the baby fish. Sometimes you might catch the big old fish.
Yeah, you be catching big fish. With me is George Loftus.
Yeah, I'm George. I'm hosting tonight's episode. Welcome to our shitty show where I'm shitty at my job at doing the show. Really glad to be here. Glad you fucking turd nuggets showed up for the real turd burger of a next hour. So glad you're here.
It's not going to be a turd burger. It's going to be a delicious, well-made steak burger. Steak seasoning you get from Walmart. Some frozen burgers. Yeah.
Some great value brand.
Yeah, they sell that A5 Wagyu at Walmart. Good stuff.
I gotta say something real quick. All right, I gotta say something, and it's because of you boys. This is a video game podcast, and I'm throwing a fucking yellow flag on the play for both of you because we fucking all bought Helldivers. All right, and as far as I can tell, I'm the only one that's been diving.
Well,
I've been diving left and right, up and down.
Let me defend myself. I've tried to get on every night for the past 4 nights, and every single time I cannot. It tells me every single time that the servers are full. I literally cannot get in the game.
I've been able to play 4 other times. Tuesday is what we call Goose Night with my San Francisco buddies. Don't ask why. I'm not even going to explain it, even if you do. So fuck it. Do it if you want to. I dare you. You're not going to get anything out of me. It's Goose Night.
Hey.
We're supposed to play games on Tuesday because it's Goose Night.
Until you can play Helldivers.
Yeah, so I'm going to play some Helldive. I'm going to dive into some Hells after this. But I've had some bad experience with the servers recently, so I haven't been able to dive into Hell quite all that much.
Have you two, did you swear on your lives that you've been trying to play and have been getting kicked out?
I'm level 10. Yes, I've been playing. Yes, I've been getting in there. Fuck.
Yeah.
Because I had trouble the first 2 nights, but after that, it's been pretty silky smooth.
Congratulations, man. I bet your copy of Skyrim on PS3 also played like butter. I don't want to hear it. Sometimes bad shit happens to good people. Yeah.
It did, actually.
Seth, when are you playing Helldivers next? When are you going to be on?
I don't know about tonight. Tonight's Caitlin's birthday, so I'm probably going to be doing whatever she wants to do tonight, which she told me includes watching the Goofy movie. So
drinking goat milk, and then George and I are going to go play Helldivers tonight. So,
well, that's a fucking first. So I'm glad you guys are playing Helldivers tonight.
That's a fucking second. I don't want to hear anything out of you. Sorry, we have other friends and other responsibilities, Seth. All right,
it's true.
Tough titties for my guy Seth. Sorry.
I've been diving left and right. I've been diving on the bugs. I've been diving on these robots. I forget what they're called, but
automatons.
Clones.
Hey man, I tried to dive so hard the other day. I jackknifed. What do you want me to do? I couldn't get into a fucking game. I'm not an engineer. I'm a diver. I'm a hell diver. I can only do so much on my end.
Anyway, you guys liking Helldivers? Awesome. What about you? How do you feel about Helldivers? Tell me about it.
Okay.
3 times you've played.
The 3 times I've played. The game is phenomenal.
You're such a dickhead.
The game is way beyond what I was expecting. And clearly it is for basically everybody out there right now, which is why it absolutely exploded out of nowhere. I'm not saying the first game wasn't good, but it was certainly more like indie style. I mean, it got some, I'd say, and George, you were probably more aware of it than I was, but it definitely had some conversation around it when it came out, especially in like the Vita community back in the day. But it was never like a big game per se.
No one cared. No one cared when it came to PlayStation 4.
Right. And so I always thought the gameplay for this looked good. And we even talked about on the podcast like a while back that we would all buy it. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was like maybe 7 or 8 months ago. We were talking about it and we said, if you guys bought it, I'd buy it. And it was just this trio of us saying that essentially we determined we'd all buy it at some point. But point aside, I was not exactly like overwhelmingly excited for it. I mean, I thought it looked good, but I didn't know if I was going to get it at launch, and just seeing all the gameplay videos, seeing all the crazy stuff people were doing instantly convinced me. And of course we all grabbed it pretty much at the same time. And I think the gameplay is excellent, man. There's something about it that's very like nostalgic. I don't know. It feels like very PS3 era to me, just the freshness of it in a way. There's something just unique about that game, and I think it's really well done. However, holy crap, the server problems. I wasn't joking, Seth, when I said I literally tried every single night for the past like 4 days, and I have not been able to get in, which is frustrating because I literally just want to play that game, and I have not played it since Friday. So I hope that they fix that problem. And I know it's like they're so successful right now, it's causing that problem, and I'm happy for that team, but at the same time, it's frustrating as somebody that just, paid $40 for the game, which, by the way, $40, we need more of that. We need more of that. But
I agree.
It's frustrating to have paid $40 for the game and frankly not being able to access it when I want to access it. But
sweet spot. $40 is a nice sweet spot for a game like that.
Yep.
I think it's sorry, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think at $40, you did get me with the season pass, right? And because I feel a little better about
I bought it too.
Season pass.
I bought it too.
The Super Citizen. I will say the season pass, the premium one, a little weak. The medals required for it are like really expensive. So
yeah, the progression I think could use some balancing, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, George.
I was gonna say, Austin, I think the reason you feel so nostalgic about it is this game kind of proves their vision, because this is fundamentally the same exact game as Helldivers 1.
Yeah.
It is the same type of humor. It is the same art direction. Little different like art style that was a bit more cel shaded. I think some compromises had to be made to make everything work on Vita and PS3 and then eventually PS4. It like literally the only thing that's different is a perspective shift from isometric twin stick shooter territory into a third person behind the shoulder action game. So like they nailed it the first time 10 years ago, and this game is proof of concept. I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 1 in like the recent weeks with my friends for Goose Night in preparation for this. And it was such a seamless transition from the first game into the second game. And it was such a seamless transition that certain things that I wasn't expecting happened. Where like, oh, the robots even kind of look the same. And then you fight the robots, you're like, Jesus Christ, like this is terrifying. Like this feels like the flashbacks that Kyle Reese has in the Terminator movie, right? Where like all of a sudden you see like the post-apocalyptic Los Angeles and just like giant hulking machines like on the horizon coming towards you.
There's like a giant hulking like Terminator machines, right? And there's giant Terminator machines that are even bigger on roller skates with laser arms that fly at you.
Yeah, I don't love those. I don't
hate
love
those
them.
Guys.
But like this is just proof that like, no, dude, they nailed it 10 years ago. It just that the audience wasn't ready for it, right? Or maybe it was like how many different ways can you use like the same ingredients? And it's like, oh, it turns out we actually just didn't want bread back then. We wanted something more like dessert. And man, this game is sweet as shit. Like this game rules.
Yeah, it does. I've been playing it a lot, and dude, it's so fun, and it's caught on in such an extreme way that like definitely casual people are in on it. Almost everyone at my work that plays video games is playing it. In fact, I can see they're in a Discord right now. They're all playing it together. So I've been playing with them mostly because you guys haven't been online. And And we've been having an absolute blast. I One thing I do like that I don't know, I'm sure other games do this, but it's an interesting way for them to generate more revenue is they put up the 2 sets of armor on the superstore every day, and they're only available for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure they'll recycle them probably eventually, but as far as I can tell, they haven't been recycled, and it's really interesting because it's like, all right, well, I'll log in tomorrow or I'll log in, today and see what the armor set is on the store, and if I like it, I'll buy it. I think I've bought 2 or 3 armor sets so far just because I think they're cool. So and I don't, like I said, I don't mind supporting the game a little bit more like that because they only charged me $40 at launch. And other than that, I will say I agree with you guys. The login issues have been really annoying. I haven't had too many issues. Now tonight, or I guess today, right before I tried to log in, it wouldn't actually let me onto my ship. It stopped me from even getting into the game at all by saying the servers were full.
That's what I keep
kind
doing.
Of annoying. Normally before that, it's been I'll try to join a match and it'll be like failed to join game in my ship over and over again. So like I could start a mission, but I couldn't join anyone's missions, and I would have problems joining other people's like my friends. I would have trouble joining their game and stuff like that. So there's definitely work to be had in that department. But dude, the gameplay is so good and it's so funny, and I just love the idea that you're just so expendable as a soldier in this world that they don't even care if you extract or not. Like it's a bonus if you extract. As long as you get the mission done, you succeed, Yeah. So it's pretty funny. And I watched Starship Troopers for the first time last night.
I've never seen it.
I didn't realize how much this game was Starship Troopers. It's like a 1-to-1. I wonder if they even tried to get the license for Starship Troopers and they couldn't, or what the deal was, because it's essentially the same exact thing. It's crazy, from the way the ships look and how they land, to the enemies, to like the armor and like the catchphrases the guys yell. It's like, wow, this is literally Starship Troopers.
It's pretty cool because the character in my game is also banging Denise Richards, just like in Starship Troopers. So it's like a really accurate rendition of that movie.
I've never seen that movie, and
you should watch it.
Yeah, I really want to.
I saw that. What year were you born, Austin?
96.
96. When you were 1 year old, I saw that movie in theaters with my dad. I was 7 years old.
Nice.
I probably shouldn't have seen that in theaters.
No, definitely not. Especially there's a very long extended shower scene with a lot of nudity in it.
My dad actually didn't cover my eyes for that part. He covered my eyes for the boning scene, and there's one scene with brains that he covered my eyes for.
Yeah, it's like, here's a shower scene. You're gonna learn to be a man today.
Here you go, son.
It's not really. My dad's not his vibe. That wasn't like a concern.
Not his vibe.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the game is so good, but I've been having to go back to the server problems. The one I've been having, I don't know about you, George, but the one I've been having is where like literally won't even let me in the game.
Yeah.
So.
I had that one today. That was what got me today. So I switched over and I'm playing Crisis Core. Other than that, it's just polishing off some missions, getting prepared for my 7 Rebirth. It's time. I'm ready. How many days away are we? Like 9?
Yeah, the demo for the game came out today, right?
Came out last week.
Last week.
Yeah.
Did you play that demo?
No.
Okay.
I will not be playing that demo. So, it's 29th is the release date. So my general strategy here, right, is I'm going to preload the game, download the demo. The demo is the first 2 hours of the game. I'm going to jump in that bad boy early. All right. Mm-hmm. Hopefully by the time I'm finished with the demo, full game's released. I have off those 2 nights anyway. It's going to be a good time.
Is that coincidence, or did you take off those 2 nights for the game?
That is coincidence, sir.
Okay.
And it's even more of a coincidence because I don't think that's a normal release date for like a release day for a video game. I think it's like a Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
It's really weird.
Thursday, well, Thursday at midnight, right?
Yeah, so Wednesday night, Thursday morning.
Oh, I thought it was like
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was technically Friday.
No, it's Thursday.
Okay.
The 29th is a Thursday for some reason.
I wonder if they were like, it's a leap year, we gotta release this game on February 29th.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
does 229 or the number 29, does that hold any significance for Final Fantasy 7?
I don't think so. That I can think of. If it is, it's a very vague reference.
I think I got one. There's 29 monsters on the hunt board in Final Fantasy 16. Boom, nailed it.
Oh, there you go.
There
you go. There it is.
There are 29 side quests that they drop on you right before the final mission in Final Fantasy 16.
I did all of them, man. I don't even care. I don't want this game to end. I know I can replay it on Final Fantasy mode. I might. I probably won't. Like, I think I need some time off after doing all this. And like, I know I've taken 8 months to play it at this point, but like that game never left my brain. Like I was never like, I would take a month off from playing it. I knew exactly where I was in the story. And that was before the active Time Lore stuff. Like that game just took its fucking thumb and just imprinted on the frontal lobe of my brain. It is occupied. I got Final Fantasy VII Advent Children today on 4K.
Oh,
because
nice.
This is gonna be the year of Final Fantasy, and it's gonna be the year of Metal Gear Solid. I'm gonna play through those two series this year.
Go.
So you'll love this then. Tomorrow night, I'm driving 2 hours to meet Pedro at Harrisburg. We're gonna watch Advent Children in theaters. They did a limited release tomorrow in theaters for Advent Children.
Nice.
It's tonight and tomorrow. So real excited about that. I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome.
Sick.
Yep.
You record Horny Boys or whatever your podcast is with that.
Alpha Nerds.
So close.
What?
I don't know. Maybe. So yeah, me and Pedro do a podcast called Alpha Nerds together, and the release schedule is so erratic because I fucking hate editing so much that it literally feels like I'm dying when I'm editing.
That's why I personally stopped doing it, and I just record the Zoom conversation, and that's the episode now. What can you do?
Yeah, it's just it is what it is. But tell me about Final Fantasy 16, George. What'd you think of the ending?
I haven't
Your
finished
overall
it yet.
thoughts.
I haven't finished it yet. I still have like
You're
12
like
more
at the
beasts.
end.
I have 12 more beasts on the hunt board that I got to take out.
Dude, no. Nobody cares about that. You need to finish the game.
I had to go through the hunt board to figure out what materials I needed to build Godder Dam.
Nobody cares.
The name of that episode.
Nobody cares.
I care. I don't want the game to be over. I still got to take out Ruin, Reawaken, the Pack, the Man in Black, Pandemonium, Phallic Terror, Bygul, the Blood Moon. So I got 1, 2.
Hold on.
3,
Can we go back to
6,
Phallic
7,
Terror?
8, 9, 10. Tricephallic. I think it's a Triceratops.
You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of the giant dick monster in Persona.
You know yes.
Which one? I feel like there's a giant dick monster in the future.
There's literally a giant monster that's shaped like a dick.
No, like literally. Like 100%.
Circumcised, like cut or uncut, whatever.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's a giant dick, and it's in all the games, and it's just a giant dick. So and you fight that. That's
a metaphor. Okay, I did all the side quests. I did everything except for the hunt board, and I'm gonna do that. And then this weekend, I'm gonna just take my Godder Dam and shove it so far up Ultima's ass. He won't be able to sit down on an airplane. He's gonna have
That's what I like to hear.
Gonna have to get first class and lay down on his side. It's gonna hurt so much.
That's what I like to hear, dude. Final Fantasy 16, super special game. Look at that. It is circumcised. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Mouth on the old frenulum there, and a spine on the front, which is technically.
I don't even feel comfortable putting that picture on the stream, so I'm just gonna leave it to the viewer's imagination.
There's like 2 balls at the bottom too. It's phenomenal.
Do you know what that monster's called so they can Google it?
It's called Mara.
Funny, that's
Mara.
I feel like that's what Seth also named his penis.
Mara.
Oh my god.
I forget what I was talking about. How do you feel, George, about the final chapters of the side quests and the journey they took to get there? Because I felt like the last side quests were so special, but I heard from so many people, including Austin here, that they didn't do them because the other side quests were like rubbing sandpaper across your eyes.
The side quests at the end are probably like a highlight of the game so far for me, where it really is. It's the equivalent in like Mass Effect 2, how like you do loyalty missions to get people to like really believe in your cause, but like it doesn't, as far as I know, and Seth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't do anything, like doesn't like improve your stats or whatever. It's like literally just like a emotional closure for you and that person's relationship.
Yes.
So like Otto, the lead guy who like runs the hideout or whatever, you have a mission where like you get to basically say goodbye to him. You have a mission with Joshua. You have a mission with Jill. You have a mission with Lady Karen, like the shopkeeper. You have a mission with like the blacksmith dude. That one's sweet because it gets you the most powerful sword in the game, which you need this time so that you can upgrade it in your second playthrough to get the Ultima weapon.
Hate that, by the way.
Yeah, that sucks.
No, I like it.
I don't like it.
I like it. It wasn't that tough. There was like 5 materials you needed. You got half of them just through story missions, and then the other 3 were like you had to hunt special pain in the dick.
Well,
monsters.
I know. I mean,
I just wish you could get it in your first playthrough.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like.
Well, no, it's the most powerful weapon in your first playthrough, and then you have that for your second playthrough. Like you keep the weapon.
I see what you're saying.
And then you upgrade it in your second playthrough, the weapon that you kept from the first playthrough.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And so like you keep all your, from what I can tell, you keep all your iconic abilities and all that stuff, and then just pay it forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt bad like never doing them, but just every other side quest in that game, frankly, sucked. And but I did go back and do a few when the DLC came out, because to access the first DLC, you had to have done several of them. It would not let you access the DLC without having done Jill's, Blacksmith one, and Joshua's. So I did all of those, and I did Torgal's as well.
Can you access the DLC after completing the main quest?
You can, but it'll essentially take you back to exactly where you're at right now.
Okay.
So it's like right before the final boss.
Yeah.
So I should just do the DLC now and then do the final boss.
Frankly, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the best way to do it.
After you beat the game, it does that thing where it's like, thank you for playing Final Fantasy 16. And it's like, there's still missions and stuff to do. And it takes you back like the last spot before the final boss.
Yeah.
Shit's really annoying. You got to figure out a way to close the loop, man. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
So that
like they were, well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
they were clearly intending to put DLC in the game.
Yeah.
Like that's very obvious if you pay attention to the lore. And I don't understand why they like developers keep structuring games like this with a very finite ending. And then it's like, all right, we're going to make DLC, but we're going to put it in the fucking middle of the story. So it doesn't matter.
I mean, I get why, based on like where this mission seems like it's going. It seems like there's going to be a change to the world one way or the other. And so like I get like the DLC wanting to take place in a version of the world, but like you got to structure it, like it has to be post-game DLC. Like if it's day one DLC, like was it From the Ashes with Mass Effect 3, where like it makes sense at any point in the story, that's great. But like the Citadel DLC that like only happens, and like I get why that had to happen, because like there's 3 different endings, so like a couple of these endings aren't going to make sense of this DLC, but like you have to figure out a way to make it either contained in that case or to close the loop and like make it make sense post game. It's, I don't want to say it's like it's hard, but like good developers can do it. You just have to like think about it.
The one character I will say though, if I'm being honest, that I felt did not get enough out of their side quests and enough like closure was Jill. I don't think Jill I think Jill is a really, really cool, awesome character. I don't think that we get enough closure out of her side quests.
We don't get shit, but like you got more closure out of her from the main story missions than you did from her side quest. Her side quest was lame as shit. Like I'm happy I did it because I love Jill and I want to make her happy. But no, there's like the mission where you were fighting Barnabas or whatever, like that was more of a exclamation point on her relationship to Clive than her side mission that was supposed to focus on her.
Right.
Ooh, look at us. I'm really playing it, boys. I'm really doing it.
You're gonna go back really
and play. I'm gonna go back and play FF1 after this. After I beat this.
Stop, dude. Just play 4 and above.
Yeah, I need to go back to the Pixel remasters, and I enjoyed 1 for what it was, and was enjoying 2, but I almost want to just like skip to 4.
Yeah,
do 4. The games are fine until you get to 4, and then it's like real Final Fantasy.
I really like 3.
Yeah, I've heard 3 is good too.
On PSP a lot with you guys.
It's fine.
Okay,
It's fine.
All right.
It's not bad. It's good, but like real Final Fantasy starts with 4. That's the general, like that's when they started telling real deep plots, and they started getting like more into character development and stuff. Because I mean, I don't know. There's like certain, like the first Final Fantasy, like your characters aren't even really named, right? They're just like you're like all 4 characters are like you as a player.
You're knight, mage, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Austin, you want to talk about what you've been playing before I finish us up? And
yeah, I mean, aside from Helldivers, honestly, I haven't really been playing anything. I a little more Fortnite here and there. Was trying to get the Solid Snake skins, and I have gotten all those now. So I still enjoy that game. I think it's going to be a good, like, kind of comfort food type game for me for a little while. I talked about this like a few episodes ago, but I think it's actually surprisingly good for what it is, and it plays great on PS5. So,
you know what's amazing is there's going to be an entire generation of people who don't know why it's called Fortnite.
Oh, for sure.
Like, is that just
Fortnite?
Because it was originally like a survival game where you had to survive a fortnight, like that, right? Wasn't that like the original premise, right? Because it was a Cliff Bleszinski pitch thing, right?
It was, which is crazy.
Idea. That was pitched when I was in college. Like I remember watching that when I in Burlington, Vermont. So that must have been 2013, 2012.
The Battle Royale thing was a side like mode that they added in, and it was, I think, because of the success of PUBG. They decided to do it, and it obviously totally blew up.
They pitched it like Left 4 Dead-esque with like base building to like protect yourself at night and like fending off the hordes. Like it's just nuts. And, like that's why it's called Fortnite.
I know.
And that mode hasn't been in the game for years.
Yeah.
4 years, 5 years. It's nuts.
The one thing I did want to bring up though, and not that I've really played enough of it, but Seth, you brought up a little while back. I guess what is now the Like a Dragon series. And I realized I was going on my PS5 the other day and looking through the store and looking for 7 because I have 0 and Kiwami 1, but I was like, I've heard 7's a pretty good place to just kind of jump in. And so I was looking on the PlayStation Store and I realized I already had the game from PlayStation Plus. I don't know how long ago, but apparently they gave it out at one point. And so I downloaded it, and I haven't really played much yet, but I think that's going to be like a game I'm going to dive into because something about that just feels right now.
I forgot to tell you guys, I was just playing that recently. I didn't get too far in it, but it's really good. And it's unlike any other Yakuza games. It's a perfect place to jump in. Yeah. And Pedro is a huge Yakuza fan, and even he was like, dude, 3, 4, and 5 suck. Yeah. Like I hate those games. And so I'm just like, all right, screw it. I played Yakuza 1 and 2. I didn't like 0 too much because I wasn't a fan of Majima. But Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, is very cool because it starts with a new protagonist, and he's really funny, and he's a giant Dragon Quest fan. Yeah.
Dude, literally in the first like 30 minutes, he's like, yeah, I learned everything I know from Dragon Quest.
Yeah, he's like, when I'm going to fight, I pretend I'm a Dragon Quest hero. Fighting monsters. It's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Who publishes? It's Sega publishes Yakuza, right? Dragon Quest is a Square game.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat, right? Just like tip the cap to a competitor like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it lets you know it's a Sega game constantly too, because there's giant Sega arcades all over inside the game, which you can play full versions of Virtua Fighter in. Which is like really cool.
I really miss in-game advertising like that like made sense. Like Crazy Taxi, another Sega game, was so good about that. And it was constantly bursting through Sega billboards or whatever. It's good shit.
Yeah.
George, what do you think about this rumor that Crazy Taxi is going to be a 100-player battle royale game? Have you seen this?
I don't love it.
Me either.
Well, because where was it? Was it the Game Awards that announced like Crazy Taxi and Jet Set and something else? Probably not Sonic.
It's one of the fighting games. There was a Shinobi on there, I remember as well. But what was
But they whatever.
Anyway,
they announced going back to the well for these classics. So like I think there should be a mode or a separate game that's like a battle royale Crazy Taxi. That sounds kind of awesome. I don't I want to buy that game.
Yeah.
You know,
I kind of
like,
just want like normal Crazy Taxi, but new.
that's the thing. And man, I am so excited to talk about this more. I'm gonna find a way to make all this connected. Seth, do you have any other games you want to talk about before I talk about my last game and do a Seth way?
No. Go ahead, dude. Take it away.
All right. Last game I played this week, or actually two last games I played this week. What do you guys think about this? The PSP saw like a release today on PlayStation Plus Premium. It got Resistance Retribution. I played that for a little bit this morning after I did some exercising, and I still had some time to kill before work. And it's the same exact game, but they added dual analog support. And they didn't tweak anything. It's literally just, oh, this is what would happen if there was a second. Because like I think it had like the face maps, so you'd move around on PSP with Resistance Retribution with like the little thumbstick on the left side, and then you'd use the face buttons to move the camera and aim. So there was no thought given to like the sensitivity of having a second analog stick. So it is just the jankiest third-person shooter. And thankfully, this one has cover, and it's a way more intuitive cover system than the last Sony Ben game before that, which was Logan Shadow, I think, like the Siphon Filter game. So that's like one old game I played today. Don't recommend it, but if you're looking for just like a dumb platinum and you miss Resistance, that it's there. I played another game that's like a full-on remake, and I think this might be the future of, I don't want to say games, but the future of a full game calendar. Mario vs. Donkey Kong on Switch is fucking excellent. It is fucking gorgeous, and it is the best Mario platformer released in the last 6 months.
Wow. Well, how many is that? Like
Super Mario Wonder is the other one.
Two.
So
Okay.
I think this game is a remake of a Game Boy Advance game. I think this game is better than Super Mario Wonder. This game's fucking awesome. Granted, it's like it's a slightly different type of puzzler or a slightly different type of platformer. It's a puzzle platformer. I get all that. This game's great, and it's a remake of a GBA game. I think this might have to be the future for release calendars, where you take the bones of something that's already there, and then you just gussy it up for modern expectations. Like, I think that has to be it, because there were some news stories breaking about PlayStation this week. There were some news stories about Xbox. And it's clear that modern game development is out of fucking control. Right. And it's too expensive to keep making like, oh no, we're going to make the prettiest, most realistic looking game that's ever existed. It's like, no, actually, we're going to do it. It's going to take us a little longer and a little more expensive, but we're going to do it. And then some other studio is going to have to do it too. And it's like, when it goes to Tsushima come out, 2020?
I think so.
2019?
No, I think it was 2020 because Last of Us 2 was...
Spider-Man was 2019, right?
Yeah. Last of Us 2 came out during the pandemic, and I want to say Ghost came out like 2 months after, if I'm recalling properly.
I mean,
yeah.
You're probably right.
And so it's like, it's been 4 years and we haven't heard from them. And like, I think I listened to this on GameScoop, but like, Days Gone came out in 2019, and so it's like, oh, so we just haven't heard from Sony Bend in 5 years. And it's just all these studios are going quiet because like they have to build the future of gaming. No, you don't actually have to do that. Like, I think there should be like 1 or 2 studios that are offset, so it's like every 3 years, maybe 3 studios.
Yeah.
So every 2 to 3 years we get just like this epic holy shit game, right? Everything else needs to be smaller. And if you don't know what to do, just like go back to the well. Like, Sony Bend, why hasn't there been like a Siphon Filter trilogy or something that's like looks really good? And hey, guess what? These 3 games combined take 16 hours to play, which means, wow, the development time for that is going to be way, way lower.
Dude.
If you're only building 3 games into 16 hours. Like, I think this is inevitable at this point because it's out of hand, man. It is fucking crazy. I made a list of all the original Xbox games I want to play for my collection, and like the average runtime for those games is like 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
For like a first-person shooter called Pariah. What the fuck else? Like a Togi. You know, like all these random games. I'm like, oh, that fell through the cracks. Like, I really wish I could go back and play that. And they were 5 hours. They're like, I think the longest one I looked up was 13 hours. And that was like, it was a RPG.
Those were the days.
Was 13 hours.
Those were the days.
Like, something's got to give. And so Mario vs. Donkey Kong opened my eyes. That game is fantastic, by the way. It is really pretty. It's charming. The opening cinematic is like genuinely hilarious, where Donkey Kong sees a commercial for the Mario toys, and Just like, holy shit, I gotta get one. Runs out to the store. They're all sold out. He loses his mind. Thankfully, though, across the street from the toy store is the Mario toy factory, and he just robs the factory. Takes every Mario toy that's there, and then the game is you trying to get your toys back.
I never played this original one. I only ever played, was the DS one, the March of the Minis? I think that was the DS one. I played that, and that was it. Which was more like Lemmings.
I haven't played that one. I assume it's like that. There's like, the way this game is set up is, I think there's 8 worlds. I think in the original game there were 6. They added 2 more for this one. And there's 6 levels, basically, in each one, where it's just like puzzles, where you have to go through, figure out a way to get 3 collectibles and the toy at the end of it, right? Where you have to figure out how to get the key. That opens up the first part of the stage. Then you get to the toy in the second part of the stage. And there's collectibles along the way that you go for like 100%. So that's like the first 6 levels of each world. And then there's a 7th mission in each world that is like you having all the toys you collected and trying to basically do the same thing, but like with very clever puzzles where it's like you're leading, they're following, you have to adjust your height so to figure out ways where they can keep walking, but like you're against a wall so you don't fall off, and like it's shit like that, where it is just like, you know, spatial awareness and like how to keep pushing things when certain objects are blocked. And then the 8th is just like a boss battle with Donkey Kong, where it changes each. I mean, I've only played two worlds so far, but it changes each time. It's fun, and it's short, man. This is like a 10-hour game, 6-hour game. 10 hours, I think, to like get everything. If you're a maniac, 6 hours just to see it through. And like, man, that sounds fucking tight. And you guys were praising a $40 Helldivers 2. This one's $50, man. Like, this is just a good looking game that's not $70.
You know what game, we're talking about remakes and ports, you know what game I keep seeing that I'm actually like oddly feeling like the urge to buy is the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remasters that they released. I've never played those games. No.
Okay. Those games are like impossible.
Yeah, a little rough. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend going back if you didn't play them originally, because it's not going to make fucking sense. It's going to be really weird to go back and look at them.
That said, they did, like, I think I agree that it's like really sort of like, how the fuck was I supposed to know I could go there?
Yeah.
Get gameplay or whatever. My biggest issue with the original Tomb Raider games, because like, remember on PlayStation Plus how they just used to give you like classics every month to like supplement like the whatever. I played all the Tomb Raider games because my roommate in college was obsessed with them. Man, those controls were just dog shit.
Yeah, they're really bad.
They were so bad, but they apparently made modern controls for this game. So I don't know if that breaks the game. I haven't actually seen any reviews. The only thing I've seen that like made it so, as soon as this game's on sale, I'm going to buy it no matter what, is like it has that thing in HD remasters where you press the start button and it goes from new graphics to old graphics, which was my favorite thing to do in Halo Anniversary.
It works really well.
Anytime a remaster has that, I'm just such a sucker for it.
One thing I did want to say is, George, you were talking about how like video game prices are out of control and how they need to like make smaller games, and how, or like they go back to the well. I have been so impressed with Crisis Core Rebirth. Crisis Core Reunion, because it looks like a full-on remake, and it looks really, really good. It looks almost as good as Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I was sitting there playing it, and I'm like, man, this is enough. And I've long said that, like, I think video games have been trying for way too long to look like real life. And we don't need real life. I don't want real life. I play video games to escape real life. And I think there should be some sort of like artistic input in video games. I don't need them to be a one-to-one copy of, the world. So I agree with you. And Crisis Core is like a 15-hour game, I think. And like, that's perfect, dude. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
And if you want to be sweaty and beat it in 2 nights, go ahead. Like whatever. And you feel like ripped off, I don't care. But there was also people that beat Final Fantasy 16 in the first weekend it came out. And I was like, I don't even fucking know how that was possible. Yeah. But I'm totally in agreement with you. I cannot stand. I mean, like, a long game is fine every once in a while, right? but
Sure.
I'm so tired of them, man. I'm so over it. It's like when I see games like 50 to 15 above hours, it's like exhausting.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially because I have all these fucking Kaseki games I got to get through.
it's that, man, and it's also like I really feel like all the stuff that gamers really complain about, where it's like, oh, it's just microtransactions, oh, it feels like it's pay to play. All that stuff is there to supplement the development costs. Like these games are so fucking expensive to build and then maintain
For sure.
that it's a single transaction isn't enough to recoup their investment. So they have to figure out a way to extract as many dollars from you for as long as possible. And so like I actually think battle passes generally pretty good way to do it. Like you're gonna be playing the game anyway, the way it's set up, if there's gonna be other things for you to do. Yeah, I'll pitch you $10 every month, every 6 weeks, just to like keep going. So like I don't know how much money I've spent on Destiny. It's a lot more than just buying $60 of Destiny, you know?
Right.
That's whatever. That's fine. But it's like, God, I want to get into fucking Madden so bad. But the Ultimate Team stuff just seems ridiculous. Where like you have to keep buying packs. And man, I watched this amazing video where this like former developer guy for EA Big went through and ranked all the EA Big games just based on like how they hold up today. And man, I miss it. I miss it. Like I'm not trying to say things were better than they weren't always better, but like they felt less gross at times, which is pretty sick. And because games were cheaper to make, you could get more weird games. When was the last snowboarding game? It was like a quarter, I guess, of whatever that Ubisoft game was, that like Riders Republic, where it was like 1/4 of the game was dedicated to snow shit. Like, come on, man. Like, why are there no futuristic car games when there was so many? Like, there was Jet Moto, there was Extreme G, there was Wipeout. All these different games could exist and flourish for $40 a pop, $30 a pop, whatever they were. And now we just can't get any because there's no way to figure out, like, oh, well, we need a returnable revenue stream. And it's like, what if you guys just didn't spend $8 billion making your game? But
it's ridiculous, man. I think we're going to have like a serious problem at some point soon. And I know we're going to get into the Xbox news in a minute, but one thing that came out of them this past week was them saying that the next generation of Xbox is going to be the largest graphical jump anyone's ever seen between generations. And I'm like, why? Why do we need this? We're already at a point where you guys are taking 20 years to make a game. We literally do not need better graphics at this point.
That's fair, but I remember at the same time, like 20 years ago, I was in high school, and it was a freshman in high school, whatever, playing games and be like, wow. Like I remember playing like the Two Towers, tie-in game or whatever, and just being like, man, video games, like how could anything look better than this? So I feel like every generation you say like, we don't need any more. Like how can it look better than this? It can always look better, but your point about like the amount of time it takes to make it look better is not worth it.
That's the thing for me, and I guess just to clarify, it's not that I don't think games could look better. I definitely do think they could. I mean, we could get as close to realistic as possible. I mean, I think we'll get there at some point, but it's just like from a development standpoint, the better these games look, the longer they take to develop and the more they cost to develop without more wide-ranging engines, I guess, like Unreal Engine 5. I mean, that's really the only one that's, looks gorgeous and has pretty simple tools for devs. Without more expanded tool access like that, I mean, it's just going to get out of control. And it already is out of control.
Well, that, or we're going to get to a point where like nothing looks unique. Like it's going to like, oh, I want to design an open world game. Okay, I'm just going to buy like an asset pack from Unreal. So every trash can is going to look the same. Now, I don't frankly give a shit if every trash can looks the same. But I also know these are creative people who have a vision. It's going to be the business people who say, just use the stock trash can.
For sure.
And they're the ones who sign the checks. They're the ones who give approval. They're the ones who allow things to get done. And then it's the creatives who are going to be fucking unhappy. And so it's like, it's no shock to me that like so many popular games these days are from split offs of like big studios. Where it's like, fuck it, man. Like if I can make one game that's $14 and sell 1 million copies, like I'll be fine. Like it's starting to become like a different kind of rat race. That's because like, what's the alternative? Is just working at a studio for $6, selling 6 million copies, and it's like, oh, that's a huge amount of money we made. Great job, but it doesn't cover development costs. You get laid off. Like, what the fuck's the point of that too? Like, it'd be really neat, some security. And I guarantee none of these games, like game studio closures, happen because the creatives weren't talented. It is never the creatives' fault why this shit happens. Even the worst game, it's not because the creatives behind the development, the programmers, it's not because they were bad at their job. It's because the fucking money people ruined it, right? It's because they had unreasonable expectations. It's because they allowed projects to get out of control. It's because there was no general oversight. And like, that's why shit falls apart.
That's like when
for big games. Yes.
I know this has been forever ago at this point, but that's like when the first Tomb Raider reboot came out and it sold like, what was it, like 9 million copies or something, and Square was like, it undersold. I'm like, dude,
Square always has some weird shit like that.
Well, it undersold because all their Japanese games. I've been listening to a lot of GameScoop from like that era of games, just because I wasn't listening to GameScoop, and it's kind of exciting to listen to some stuff. I got some real fucked up stories to tell you about stuff that happened on GameScoop when we're not recording. But yeah, like it's in that era that we're talking about, and that was when like even like Japanese developers had no faith in the Japanese development community, right? They're like, man, this is all going to shit. The same way how like a few years later, like all Japanese like was it mangakis, like the people who work on manga and stuff, were just like, yeah, there's no such thing as good anime anymore. You know, like they were just shitting on their industry so much, and so like the reason Square selling that many copies wasn't enough was because it didn't change the fact that like 13-3 didn't sell very well. Right. This other game didn't sell very well.
Yeah. One thing I will say though, just real quick before we move on, is pretty amazing that like maybe we need to figure out what Remedy's doing, right? Because Control being made for $30 million, that's a sweet spot. Whatever they're doing, let's mimic that. I don't care if it's hallways, right? Mm-hmm. I'm cool with that. Like,
also,
not every world needs to be open.
They said, I forget the exact number, but they came out and said that Alan Wake 2 has sold like 2 million, I think, 2.5 million, which is for a title of that like caliber is pretty low. But when they announced it, they were like, congrats, we've sold this much. Like, it was very positive. So clearly they're doing something right when it comes to budget and like expectations for the sale of their games.
George couldn't wait anymore. He's going to pay.
Yeah.
We'll fill it in. Austin, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
How you making out, buddy?
I'm doing good, Seth. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's my day off. It's my second day off. I'm taking off tomorrow too, so I'm really happy about that.
What are you going to be doing? You going to be drinking some goat milk?
No, not drinking any goat milk.
No goat milk.
See that Andie's rocking her Stitch sweatshirt.
That's right. Speaking of, have you seen the news that they're making a live action Stitch movie?
Hate that. It irks me. It boils my blood.
Why? Like, why do we need this?
I don't know.
What is that? Okay, here's a topic for you. Why do we need live action? And it's like Disney specifically. Why do we need live action conversions of Disney animated films?
I don't know. Have any of them done well? Are any of them well received?
I don't think so.
Beauty and the Beast, I think, was generally well received, right?
Like half of them came out and just died instantaneously, to be honest with you.
But Disney refuses to give up on them too. Like they're like really like going after everything. Like I told you at the parks. By the way, we were at Disney World last week.
That's right.
I am so irritated they're making a Hercules live action movie. Like in my mind, that movie is perfect. And there's nothing wrong with it being animated. It doesn't need to be live action. And I just hate it. It kills me inside.
So I'm looking at some of the ones they're working on right now. These are all live action projects they are currently working on. The Lion King sequel called Mufasa, The Lion King. Snow White, Moana, Lilo and Stitch, Hercules, Bambi, The Sword and the Stone, Robin Hood, The Aristocats, and untitled third Maleficent film. Those are all films they're working on that are going to be live action.
Well, here's my thing. Why are they... Okay, so like, here's my problem with The Lion King, right? Why did we We remade The Lion King. We called it live action. Not live action, by the way. All computer graphics. Looks worse than the original because it's fucking computer graphics, and the original was beautifully hand-drawn animation. What is going on here? The Lion King is a 10 out of 10 perfect movie. We didn't need to remake it in shitty CG.
Also,
fuck off, Disney.
Also, it's like a 1-to-1 remake.
Yeah.
Yes. What was the point?
No, but like, how is it 20 minutes longer?
Oh,
like it was the same. It was the same movie. It was like the same scenes. Like, how is it a longer movie?
I'm looking through some of the ones that have released, and like I couldn't have even told you that some of these released. Like I do not recall The Sorcerer's Apprentice being turned into a live action movie in 2010.
That one was actually kind of fun. Yeah, that was Nick.
I know that was a Disney animated movie.
I don't remember that.
Sorcerer's Apprentice was like a short with Mickey Mouse where he was the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and he has to clean up the tower and then cast a spell that was like all the brooms, mopping and sweeping and shit.
The Jungle Book that came out. Nobody ever talks about that.
Jay Baruchel too. Yeah. The Jungle Book was fine. That was like the first one they did.
Lady and the Tramp. That came out. Yeah. Apparently 5 years ago it did, Seth.
Well, the reason they do this shit is because like it makes marketing easier. Right? And so that's in theory money they can save on the movie because they have to market it less because a generation of people knows what the Jungle Book is. A generation of people knows what the Lion King is, I
was wondering if it was a trademark thing. If they're like, oh, we got to use this trademark so it doesn't expire or something. And I'm not sure.
Because I think the Jungle Book is public domain. Like most of Disney's stories are public domain. And so you're right. It could be where it's like, oh, well, this character design of Cinderella lapses. But then there was like a 30, 40, 50-year stretch where it wasn't. And like all these announcements were made before Republicans got pissed off at Disney and then like revoked they called it like the Mickey Mouse copyright law.
Yes.
Right? Like
I just found out about that recently.
Because it was basically in place just for them because they kept donating to
Disney like strong-armed politicians into extending the public domain law.
I think it's 70. It's supposed to be 50 years, right? Yeah.
They did it like 3 or 4 times or something. It was
that sounds like a pretty reasonable thing to revoke though, like a rare dub for Republicans, right? So
no, well they did it because of like the wokeness of Disney World and Ron DeSantis and all that stuff. Like that was why they did it.
I don't really care how we got there. It's more or less.
I generally agree though that it was a good thing that it ended, just because it's like, well, give someone else a chance. But like all they ever do is adapt public domain shit anyway. So like that stuff is free for anyone to adapt. And then it's like the details in their movies that became the new public domain because everyone saw them. You know what I mean? True. Like the idea of like the 3 blind mice or whatever, like the way they look is the way you imagine them is the way they look in that movie. So like you can't make any 3 blind mice that look like the 3 blind mice from Disney. It's like that becomes the new copyright from public domain. Whereas like DreamWorks does that. Whereas DreamWorks does adaptations. Like Shrek was a children's book. How to Tame Your Dragon was a children's book. Even fucking Boss Baby was a children's book.
It frustrates me to no end that we're taking these great movies and being like, let's make shitty versions of them. Like I will not watch the Hercules movie because the Hercules is a perfect movie.
No, I love that.
We are the muses.
You know, the best version of Hercules was in the hit franchise by Tetsuya Nomura, Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. The best version of Hercules was played by Dwayne The Rock Johnson in like 2012.
That movie was so fucking bad.
I never watched it.
That movie was genuinely. Speaking of The Rock, the reason I think he's like really coming back to wrestling, like one, he's like on the board of TKO, which is like the parent company of WWE now and UFC. And like I just like all the shit I see on Twitter, like it's probably not true, but I've been seeing it so much I'm starting to believe it. It's just like all of his movies suck the past couple years. You know, like even like him in Fast and Furious like hasn't really been enjoyable since 5. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, oh well, no one likes me over here at this lunch table. Maybe if I go back to my old lunch table, my old friends will still want to sit with me. Like I'm probably getting Twitter pilled, but like that's kind of what it's starting to feel like.
Well, let me look at his filmography here. Actually, his filmography is not as long as like you would think it is.
Did people like the Jungle Cruise movie he did? Speaking of Disney, I never saw that movie.
That movie fucking sucked. That was I think that was a day and date on Disney Plus because I was like still like pretty early pandemic. Like I think it was like 2021.
I see.
I wanted to like that movie so much. It was so fucking bad because it had vibes of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Because it's a different ride like Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean shouldn't have been a good movie based on the ride. The ride is delightful. I love it. I love it because I went on it when I was 5. You know, so I've got some core memories attached to that. The ride itself, go on that as an adult, you're like, wow, this fucking sucks. And Jungle Cruise, same thing.
So, I mean, people liked Hobbs and Shaw, I think. They didn't like Shazam. I mean, he's in a lot of movies that people don't give a shit about, for sure. I guess he is in Fast 10. I didn't think he was. But him and Vin Diesel like feud, so he hasn't been in the last few Fast and Furious movies.
That Jumanji movie he was in, I heard people like that. I never watched that.
Okay, Jumanji is actually really good. Jumanji 2 is, Jumanji 2 is fine.
Jumanji.
I
forgot there was a Rampage movie. Do you guys remember there was a Rampage movie that he starred in?
Yes. Yes.
And a Skyscraper movie that he starred in. I mean, like, he is in a lot of crappy movies. My theory with The Rock is that...
also in San Andreas, too.
My theory with The Rock is that he just accepts anything because he loves money. That's my thing, right? But I will say I was a big fan of him in where is it here?
The Rundown.
No,
I don't say
Netflix.
The
Red
Tooth
Notice.
Fairy.
That movie was fucking awful, man. That movie was
I
so
thought it was
bad.
fun. I thought it was fun. I liked it.
That movie cost $200 million to make, and like every shot of them in Paris is on a green screen. It's like, what the fuck did you spend $200 million on that you couldn't get The Rock in Paris? Like, you can't just. Oh my god, that movie, like, it looks like shit. I think that's my biggest problem. Like, I thought The Marvels was good. I thought it was like an enjoyable movie. My big issue is like, God, you guys should probably figure out ways to like not film so much on green screen because like this movie just looks like doo-doo. Like, stop making movies that look like shit. Don't be a pussy. Like, go shoot on location. It's pretty cool. It's nice when you do that.
It looks like he averages about 2 movies a year. So he's actually, his filmography is not as long as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a fucking.
Honestly,
it seems like that, but
I was just looking at it.
One of the best movies he made was called The Rundown, which came out in 2004, 2003.
2003. I'm actually a bigger fan of Walking Tall than I am The Rundown, but I will say The Rundown, Walking Tall.
I haven't seen those movies.
I love Sean Williams. I love Sean William Scott, so I got to give it to The Rundown.
Gridiron Gang was another one that he made that was phenomenal.
It was just like, hey, what if we did Remember the Titans, but modern?
That's a true story.
So was Remember the Titans.
Yeah,
so was Clash of the Titans.
Gridiron Gang, better movie. That's what it is. No, I don't care, George. I don't care.
I actually don't care. I actually don't care about either of those movies. I gotta be honest.
The Rock says, I forget the quote that was in my head about Gridiron Gang. But it's a good movie. You should watch Gridiron Gang.
Okay.
I've never seen Remember the Titans.
Did we move on to the next subject, or were you guys?
No, we were flowing in conversation.
We were slamming on some Disney live action nonsense.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I brought that up and we had that conversation is because of this Xbox news that broke last week. So there was a lot of like rumors swirling, right, about like, oh man, Starfield's gonna come to PlayStation. Indiana Jones gonna be 6-month delay, then it's gonna come to PlayStation, and it just the idea of like exclusivity being over because like they paired that with the quote about like every screen is an Xbox, right? Like looking forward, just like real blue ocean strategy shit that like Nintendo was talking about in the mid 2000s. And so then they had like their podcast. I didn't even listen to the podcast. I didn't either. I read through the transcript because like I'll listen to like an authentic podcast if it's Phil Spencer on a gaming podcast that's not his. Like, yeah, I'll take that one. Like, I'll listen to that. If it's like an Xbox branded experience, like I don't care. Like, that's cool. You just made like a 60-minute, a 54-minute commercial for your brand. Like that feels different to me than getting insight into like an industry leader.
I hate those podcasts. I know that's not what we're talking about here, but like the PlayStation blog podcast, I'm like, no, they'll put up an episode and it's like, first impressions of Horizon 2. Dude, you literally work for the company that made the freaking game. I'm not going to trust a word you say.
Right.
Anyway,
so
there's my
so
spiel.
This happened, and it happened in a really weird week where like Sony was also having some weird news stories come out at the same time. Not about them going multi-platform, but about them like announcing like, oh hey, we're actually not going to release any sequels to any existing IP for the calendar year 2025. Right? Like that was their big announcement. So like Ghost of Tsushima 2, which should be fucking done by now. Like that's not coming out. So there's like nothing that we know about. So like on one hand, people overreact because like you're not releasing a single first party game. And it's like, no, he didn't say that. They said they're not releasing anything tied to like an already existing continuity. But then some others saying that like, oh, because console sales are slowing down, like the console's nearing the end of its life cycle. It's like, no, bitch, actually we're hitting the fucking prime. Like everything should be coming out. Like we should be getting a new game every 6 months because it has been so fucking long of having these games. And like we talked about it on the show a bunch that like it didn't feel like this generation of consoles started until last summer when Starfield and Final Fantasy 16 came out.
Right.
For sure.
And so these 4 games, like he didn't even announce which games, which is just like fucking infuriating that he didn't announce which games, but like the rumors are it's Grounded, it's Pentiment.
Yeah.
Some other multiplayer game, I think by
Sea of Thieves.
Thank you. And then I can't remember the 4th game. And so that's the point, that it's like 4 games you don't care about, but
Hi-Fi
makes
Rush.
sense as okay, Hi-Fi Rush. So it's like 2 single player games and 2 multiplayer games. The multiplayer games make perfect sense. Like those games live and die by their user base. You want that on as many things as possible.
For sure.
And it was announced that like basically PlayStation 5 is outselling Xbox Series X and S 2-1. So yeah, it makes sense that you'd want to like open this up to greener pastures on other consoles. And like that ties into our conversation that we were having earlier about just like the rising cost of development, where like you need to recoup, you need to get eyes on your product.
Well,
like you need to get dollars.
I just think, I mean, it seems to me like maybe the original plan was to go full like third party exclusive. Like maybe that was a push from the top of Microsoft, and maybe the guys at Xbox kind of pushed back on it, and they reached a middle ground on that, because it doesn't really make sense to just go like, oh, we're only releasing 4. It's like, well, no, there's more that are eventually going to come. You're not just going to release 4. And
also you already publish Minecraft on PlayStation and Switch.
Yeah.
And Ori and the Blind Forest was also on Switch as well.
I'll just say, I think it makes sense for Xbox just to go third party at this point. Like it's been like a decade. We've been like every year, this is going to be Xbox's year. They've been holding out. They've been quiet. This is the year they're going to come out and like really start throwing some punches. And it just never happened. And I mean, at this point, they have so many studios that they own that they can be the biggest third party publisher in the world. And it's like, why wouldn't you do that as opposed to just like limping along on your own console because you're stubborn? And I know like that is upsetting to a lot of people who are big fans of Xbox, but at the same time, like, well, we saw this happen with like Sega and Atari, and it's just the way things go.
Frankly, you got to kind of read the room, to be honest. I mean, they are clearly, and I mean, I don't know, I'm sure someone disagree with me, but they're clearly moving in a direction that's like, we don't necessarily care about the system.
Yeah.
We care more about Game Pass and the games themselves. And that's just been like a consistent theme of theirs over the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, ever since they launched Game Pass, it's been all about, it seems like they've marketed Game Pass more than the systems themselves. And, I'm sure there would have to be some agreements in place, but I don't see why they couldn't at some point work in a Game Pass like subscription on other systems as well. I'm sure that will happen. I think that's their overall goal. I mean, that appears to be the case at least. So, but Bullfrog in the chat, he said he thinks 4 will be to just test the waters. Maybe they'll sell more once they sell well, which I'm sure will be the case.
Oh yeah, I bet Hi-Fi Rush sells like gangbusters on PS4.
For sure.
I'm sorry, PS5.
For sure.
Like that seems clear.
There was a video I saw, I want to say it was like Vintage Video Gamer, some British guy who makes like decent videos on YouTube, went through and just like listed and showed gameplay of like the 30 games that Microsoft published that has appeared on other consoles. And like most of them appeared on DS and like Game Boy Advance. And like the majority of them were like rare games, right? Because of their existing relationship with Nintendo. But it was just like, oh yeah, we're doing this just because we don't see them as a competitor. Like we don't have anything in the handheld market, so it's like it doesn't hurt anyone to release Diddy Kong Racing DS,
Yeah.
for like the Nintendo faithful who like played that game on N64 before we bought Rare. And so this isn't that, right? Like this is like a direct competitor that you'd be releasing a game. Like let's just take these titles at face value. Hi-Fi Rush, smaller little action game, right? Like musical. That was the one they released just like out of nowhere at the beginning of the year last year. It's just like, holy shit, Microsoft! Like they had some fucking pitches we haven't seen yet. All right, and then it was like Starfield, and then I can't name like another big Xbox game that came out last year.
I think Forza maybe was Forza last year.
But Motorsport, like the actual like sim one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that was I forgot that happened last year.
Yeah.
But like these other games, like they make sense because like we said, or like I said, like they live and die by their audience, and like you guys agree with that, right? Like a game like Grounded, a game like Sea of Thieves is only as good as its user base.
Yeah.
But this shift in policy, like I think it makes perfect sense. What do you guys think? You remember when Sony was like losing money so much during the PS3 generation? It was because of 3D TVs. Like 3D TVs were actually like they spent all this time developing it, all this time producing 3D TVs that just weren't bought by anyone. I have like the little PlayStation monitor, which I actually really love.
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I think sick. Yeah, but like PlayStation was actually like a division of Sony that was profitable.
Yeah.
So like they were, I don't want to say carrying Sony, but like yeah, it was good to look good. And then like Microsoft, like is Xbox a profitable division of?
No.
Is Xbox profitable for Microsoft? I don't know. Like, what were their numbers that they released for Game Pass? It was like, what, 31 million, 34 million?
They don't generally like talk about Game Pass numbers for the last couple of years, as far as I know.
But there was the stuff though from the court situation, those documents that leaked, and it talked about some of it. But
I don't remember.
And so you have to figure out like, all right, so that's like a recurring revenue stream of, let's say conservatively 25 million people are subscribed to Game Pass, right? So 25 million times, what is it now for a month of Game Pass?
15?
All right, so 25.
I can't remember.
It's 15. I think it's $15.99. I just bought it to get Persona.
All right, then how are they not profitable if they're making that like 25 million times 15 a month?
Well, I'll tell you because, for instance, Persona 3 Reload came out, right? And I activated Game Pass and played Persona Reload for $15 and I'm canceling Game Pass again. So like any way you slice it, the bottom line is that I just played Persona 3 Reload for $15, you know? And you know, like when Forza Horizon 5 came out, same thing. I played Forza Horizon 5 for $15. And you can't do that. If Game Pass wasn't an option, I would have bought Persona Reload for $70. So video game, like look at the situation on PS5, for example, they're already struggling with game prices, right? We switch over to Game Pass and all of a sudden like people are paying way less for games.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it. I just don't see a way. Yeah, sure. Like that's a lot of money, but look at how many fucking games are on Game Pass. It's like disgusting. And they're new as well. Like the games on Game Pass aren't trash. I said they were trash when Game Pass first came out. I still stand by that at that time they were trash. But like, look at Starfield. Starfield came out and Starfield took forever for Bethesda to make, and it was probably their most expensive game yet. And almost everybody played Starfield for $15. And that's it, dude. So like, sure, there's a lot of people playing it and there's a lot of people subscribed and it's a lot of money coming in, but it is a shitload of money coming out. So that's how I view, like
I would hope that not that they have to release this, but I hope at some point we get an answer as to whether or not it's profitable for them or not. I don't see how it could be, to be honest.
No, there's no way.
Just with the sheer amount of games on there. And like you said, Seth, I mean, a bulk of them are new games, and I don't know, man. It's interesting. Clearly Microsoft has like a crap load of money and they can do whatever they want. So maybe they're just kind of infusing money into the Xbox brand.
funny because like you're seeing all this shit with like streaming services, right? And it's like, yeah, like they were making money hand over fist like in early Netflix days when they would just license it. They're like, yeah, sure, fuck it. Like you can run our show, you can run The West Wing on Netflix, you can run Sopranos, you can run The Wire, whatever. Like there used to be all these HBO shows on Netflix, and it wasn't a big deal because there was no HBO streaming thing, there was no NBC streaming thing, there was no CBS streaming thing. So that's why like Doctor Who was there. That's why Friends was there. You know, like all this shit that was awesome. And then everyone's just like, wait a second, they're making so much fucking money over here at Netflix. Like, screw this. Like, we should make our own. And like, we'll just get that money. And so now there's just like less content on Netflix, which makes me less excited about Netflix personally. But that's beside the point. Now all these like content producers are running their own streaming services and losing so much fucking money because it turns out what people were paying for was basically perfect cable, whereas everything they wanted on demand all the time, all at one place for one fee.
Yep.
And now they've recreated the cable model, except made it way more fucking annoying with all these different services. So like you got Paramount, you got Peacock, you got Showtime merged, you got Max, you got all these different places that all this content lives. And like they're finding out how expensive it is to the point where like HBO is now starting to license their stuff out, you know, because like they're trying to generate interest in Max by giving some of their shows. Like I'm pretty sure The Wire is now back on Netflix. Like it's Ballers, speaking of The Rock, which is actually a pretty good Rock series, all things considered. He's like a sports agent in Florida. Like Ballers is on Netflix. And they're just trying to figure out like what they can live with and what they can live without. But like all these companies are talking about merging because it's just like so fucking expensive to like maintain and run this and then not get the recurring revenue of just like licensing your content out and like basically getting paid royalties for how many times it airs. Right. Like they were making money without having to spend any money running a service like this. And like, dude, that's for TV shows. That's for TV shows that were made 40 years ago. TV shows that were made 60 years ago. Fucking much money did Starfield cost last year? You know, like it's insane that like they think this can work when like the cheapest version of this hasn't worked. Like the most affordable. Like even comic book streamers go out of business. You know,
and Bullfrog in the chat brings up a good point. He said, you know, look at the Ubisoft service, the EA service. We're starting to get to this point now too with games. It's taken a little longer. But PlayStation Plus obviously is now got the Game Pass competitor. And then I would even throw in like the Nintendo Switch Online into that because it's essentially the same idea with subscribing to get the retro games. And so I think we're going to get to a point where the Nintendo one's probably not as egregious because I'm sure that costs them like nothing. But when it comes to these services releasing new games, like we're going to keep getting more and more of these services. And I think it is going to become a problem as well, just like it is with TV and film.
Yeah. The best thing Game Pass does is marketing. Because like, I think we talked about this on the show last summer because I got really pissed off at it.
Yeah.
Man, PlayStation Plus is like just as good as Game Pass. Like it's not day and date with brand new releases. So like in that regard, it fails.
Yeah.
But man, there's so many fucking good games on PlayStation Plus, especially on Premium. It's like incredible how much is available there. And I think it comes out cheaper too. Like they just announced that they were going to raise the price.
It is cheaper
for starting next year, or either later this year or early next year. I can't remember which one. But like, man, it's cheaper. It's just as good. And it's just like no one gives a shit about that. But like, I personally don't give a shit about Game Pass. I had it for 2 years. And I'm like, nah, I didn't play anything. Like there was nothing to play.
There's
cool to play Gears of War. That was neat.
There's a lack of value for me in Game Pass where I've never beaten a game on Game Pass. Where like I'll look at it, I'll play a game on Game Pass, and then I'm like, I lose interest for some reason. Because anytime I'm even a little bit bored, I'm like, man, whatever, put it away. I don't have a vested interest in this at all, you know.
Because you have no financial interest in it, right?
Right.
$15 a month means 50 cents a day.
Yeah, it's like nothing.
So like that has no inherent value. Whereas like $70 purchase, like you're gonna play that fucking game, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Game Pass is like a really cool service. I would pay.
I don't disagree.
I would pay a lot more for Game Pass, I think, but I'm in a very small minority on that. Like, I think a lot of people wouldn't be willing to pay like $50 for a subscription service. But if Game Pass had like a stellar library and it worked really well, and you know, I could play it on like a remote device on my TV seamlessly, I would be willing to pay that much for Game Pass, even like $70 a month, right? That's the general of a new game a month. However, whatever. There is so much value in Game Pass, and Microsoft is not extracting it because I think they're scared of the price tag. They're scared if they jack that price up to $25 or $30 a month, probably they're going to get a ton of people to drop out, probably because they look at other subscriptions like Netflix and whatnot. And they're like, well, we can't charge people more than Netflix, right? And we can't be the most expensive. But the reality is that the products on Game Pass are probably far more valuable than the products on Netflix or HBO or anything like that. Like it's insane the amount of money that's in Game Pass, and I would not be surprised if like it is really putting a hurting on Microsoft's wallet. It would not surprise me in the least if Game Pass was like draining money from Microsoft.
This is also what companies do, though. Like, how cheap was Lyft and Uber when that shit came out, right? You could get across town for $4. Like in San Francisco, it would cost me $4.75 basically to get from downtown San Francisco to my apartment 5 miles away, like no matter what the traffic was.
Right.
And now, like, you take a Lyft, that's that same distance. It's like $25. Like they came in, they ate the cab business, destroyed that model by undercutting them, rode that for 5-6 years until the cabs just couldn't take it anymore. And then they just jacked the price up. And it's like, I assume that's going to happen. They're talking about that for sports streaming, where I think it's ABC/ESPN. I think it's not NBC. It's Turner. And then I think it's CBS. Like, they're talking about like creating basically like a joint sports package, where before cable, like really, or sports channels, like ESPN was like the most profitable company basically of all time, because they would get subsidies from the rest of the cable package, or rest of the cable bundle that they were on. So they just made money hand over fist. Whether people watched ESPN or not, everyone was paying for ESPN. And that was how they became so powerful. And so now they're talking about like starting a new streaming service that's like the combined efforts of those three people I just listed. And I probably got one wrong. I apologize. But like they're talking about it, and it's like, oh, yeah, I was listening to a podcast like, oh, how much do you think this would be a month? In my head, I'm like, well, I don't know, it's probably like $12 to $15. And he's like, yeah, I think like 35 to 40 is like a realistic price point, which like makes sense because you think about how many people only have cable because of sports.
Yeah, that makes sense, but that's like, good Lord.
But for a streaming
what a world
service,
we live in.
I mean, that would get you every nationally broadcast basketball game. Like, the problem is, it's just like what about local shit? Like, is that not included? Like, and so like that's just, I don't know. Everyone is just so greedy about getting like their slice of pie that like they're making it frankly like not fun for everyone else. Like it kind of sucks trying to get the few things you want.
I'll be honest, I do kind of feel like, because the people that run these companies are not dumb, right? The finance people. Right. I really do in my heart believe that Game Pass was an initiative to really injure Sony. Like, I think Microsoft's strategy these last few years has been, let's do as much damage to Sony as possible to try and get some footing here, because they were getting clobbered, right? So let's jump into our pockets and make this Game Pass system and buy a whole bunch of developers and publishers and get them in there, and then like we'll undercut them and then jack the price up. It makes sense as a strategy to me. I mean, that's what I would do, right? Like, if I really needed to get
it makes sense
and had that ability, why wouldn't they? And that's what I think the point was, because they had to have known they were going to lose money on it, right? $15 a month is nothing. And for a long time, you could get Game Pass for practically free. You could get Game Pass. There was like Game Pass vouchers left and right in Xbox games, and you could get it for like $1 on sales and stuff like that. People were like buying 2 years of Game Pass for like $20. It was crazy.
Dude, I don't know if you can still do that, but there was a period of like for several years where you could, it would like somehow upgrade your Xbox Live Gold membership if you added Game Pass to it. So people would go and buy like 4 years of Xbox Live Gold, then do the $1 thing, and it would be like a fraction of the price for 4 years of Game Pass. It was some ridiculous deal. People were doing that. So, and
Microsoft knew people were doing it. Like, they're not dumb.
It was there for years.
They were like, they just didn't care that you weren't giving them money for a while. And it's like, okay, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. It's the only way I can think about it, is that like they were really desperately trying to create Sony. So, and it seems like it has not worked in their favor whatsoever. So now it seems like, okay, holy shit, let's break the glass and start publishing these games on other platforms to make some of that money back. All right. I think we covered that topic pretty good. Does anyone have any closing thoughts?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I'm excited to talk about Nintendo Switch news next week.
Next week?
Do you want to talk about it tonight?
I don't know. How long have we been running? 1 hour?
Like an hour and a half.
6 hours. Like 6 hours.
All right, we can talk about it next week. We had a good show.
Well, let's save that because there's also like a Nintendo Direct
That's
happening this week, right?
Yeah.
And so next week we're not going to make. I think there's a Pokemon Direct happening the 29th. So we're gonna miss that one, but or is it the 27th? Is it today? Is it Tuesday?
Hold on, now I gotta look it up. I did see, however, that there's a rumor going around, as there have been, about literally everything, including that Xbox thing. A duck just quacked.
I didn't know that these were an option.
There's been a rumor going around about how apparently they're going to announce like gold and silver remakes at that event next week, and I 100% do not believe that.
That would be so tight.
That's because the way they coded the YouTube thing, right? Like it listed like under it says like games, and it was like Pokemon Gold and Silver. Like that came up in like a tag on the YouTube video. And it's like I don't know if that was by accident or if that is intentional.
It's time, dude. It's so time for a Gold and Silver modern game.
Do you want it to be like Let's Go, or do you want it to be like Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl?
February 27th, by the way, so 1 week from today. So we will have seen it for next week's podcast.
All right, next week's a Switch episode. In theory, Coach will not be here again, right?
No, what do you mean? We've been waiting on him.
Well, I thought his schedule will slow down in 2 weeks.
But that doesn't mean he won't be on next week. It's just...
It kind of made it sound like he won't be able to make an episode for the next 2 weeks, which isn't that different than the last 200 weeks. But I mean, I like it, it's fine.
200? Oh my god, yeah, that's actually probably accurate.
Yeah, I missed that fucker. So bad.
Yeah, dude. If I was to choose, I would choose a Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl type remake, because I liked Let's Go, but I wasn't a fan of the. Like I don't want to evolve my Pokemon with candies and catch the same Pokemon over and over and over again. It's not how I like to play Pokemon.
Yeah,
I'll play Pokemon Go, right? But when I'm playing like the actual games, I want to like catch my Charmander and evolve my Charmander, right? Like I don't even get deep into like the traits or whatever the fuck they're called. You know, like the very small stats that grow and like the static. Yeah, the Ivy and EVs.
Is it Ivy or 4? Because it's also
there's IVs and there's EVs. The IVs are the ones that the Pokemon innately has. The EVs are the ones I think that grow as you use the Pokemon.
And the IVs, when you go to the hospital and you need like some fluids, those two.
It's also where really smart people go, right? Like they went to college at the IVs.
Yeah, right. True. Bullfrog in the chat says Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was just lacking a certain magic. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree either. I think if they remake them in that style, here's another huge problem I had with Diamond and Pearl. For the love of God, include the content from the third game.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Don't freaking remake the originals and not include the stuff from Platinum. Don't remake Gold and Silver and not include the stuff from Crystal. Like,
Seth, if I'm playing a game for the first time, I want it to be the original Pokemon formula. If I'm revisiting a game, I want it to be the Let's Go style.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I liked Let's Go. I thought it was a really fun like mix up. But first off, it was too easy. It was a breeze. I know they were trying to get like young kids in. We played it as young kids. We didn't need our handheld like that.
We got obliterated. We got obliterated, and we loved it.
I actually did need my handheld. I bought 2 guides, like 2 different strategy guides to figure out.
But see, that was part of the fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, it was really cool. After spending $30 on a game, was spending $40 on $2 to beat the fucking game. That was super easy for me as an 8-year-old to do. You know how many fucking lawns I had to mow? How much?
Dude, it's an
how many-
RPG.
That was
How
part
many-
of the fun.
How many?
Part
how
of the
many
fun.
snows? How many snows I had to shovel to get those strategy guides? But here's the thing: is like I don't think I've played any other game that I know that well, other than the first two. Like I
Yeah.
beat the first one at least 15 times.
Yeah.
I beat Silver and Gold 10 times. And then Platinum, I played one time, but I played it one time for like 400 hours. Like I really love that game, but I haven't touched it in 15 years. So like it was nice to play it again. But now if I'm revisiting something super familiar, no, give me the cliff notes. You know, like let me feel the way I felt, but like don't make me do the same thing I did all this lifetime ago.
It was like 20 years ago though. Like I can get an original remake. You know, like it's cool.
Yeah, but I did it.
You know, point being that we're talking about all this, I don't think they're going to announce anything next week. I think it's going to be a joke because all those Pokemon Day events have always been like, Pokemon Sleep, toothbrush.
Yeah. I mean, it's time for them to announce a new Pokemon game though, right? Like they usually have a Pokemon game every year.
Yeah.
And like they should, and every 3 years is a new generation generally,
typically 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So we're getting up on that time where it's about time to announce like their mid-gen game, and then it's about time to announce, because like Scarlet and Violet should have a follow-up following the formula, whether it's an Ultra game or like a 2 or Purple or
I mean they did do that with Sword and Shield. Yeah.
Will they though? Because they did the DLC for Scarlet and Violet. It seems like DLC's kind of replaced the third game.
I'm cool with that too. Yeah.
I haven't played the DLC yet.
Me
either.
Pokemon looks really ugly.
What?
Obviously, like Gold and Silver are great. I think probably my favorite Pokemon game because you got to go back to Johto or Kanto. That was so amazing.
They're the best. They're the best games.
Give me fucking Black and White, man. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
I barely touch those games.
I think that's coming. Obviously,
there's some revisionist history with Black and White. I feel people did not like those games when they came out, and I say that. Let me revise that. Some people did not. I love those games. I thought they were actually very good, and the story is probably the best out of any Pokemon game.
Well, those were the first games with like a completely new Pokédex, right? Where like every single Mon was brand new. So it was the first new Pokemon game in a while.
Yeah.
And it was like right at the tail end of the DS, right? So it was the best they could look on DS, but like, man, it looks kind of dookie in hindsight. I remember Jack DeVries for IGN really fucking loved that game, at least the first one.
I think the Pokemon fandom is sort of like the Star Wars fandom where they hate everything that comes out.
Yeah, that's fair.
For sure.
Yeah, because like they just bitch about everything, and like there is legitimate things to bitch about with Scarlet and Violet. Like why Game Freak is a terrible developer. That is a legitimate like criticism, and why the mountains look like a single mesh. That's a legitimate problem, right?
Yep.
But they're fine games. Like they're the best looking Pokemon games we've gotten so far. So
I've been thinking about this recently for comic books. Like the fans who like don't hate anything that comes out is like usually Batman fans, and the fans that do hate everything that come out are like Batman's allies fans. So it's like Nightwing fans are like never fucking happy, Robin fans are never happy, Batgirl fans are like never happy. But if you're just into Batman, like man, you're eating pretty well. Like there's like
you're telling me that like Nightwing fans don't have anything to bitch about. They gave them Rick for 3 years, George.
No, I said like they're the unhappy ones. It's the Batman fans. No, but like Nightwing fans are unhappy, but Batman fans are not unhappy, is what I'm saying.
I know. If I was a Nightwing fan, I'd be pissed too. They gave me Rick Grayson for 3 years.
Whatever. That series has won so many Eisners for the past 3 years.
But they hated it. The fans hated Rick Grayson. It was stupid.
Yeah, of course they hated Rick Grayson, but man, they fucking love what Bruno Redondo and what Tom Taylor are doing now over at the Nightwing factory. It's been good eats.
I haven't read it.
Bullfrog
I on Nightwing.
Sorry to go back to this. Bullfrog in the chat says he loves how Scarlet and Violet focused on trees, since that was a big criticism of Sword and Shield. Was that a criticism? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was because they were.
I never played Sword and Shield.
I think it's so boring and sterile. Like obviously, like the open areas, whatever they're called, the wild area is like the only new part of that game. Everything else, like going from town to town, it's somehow more boring than like the original Blue and
what
Red.
slapped real hard in Sword and Shield though? The gym leaders. When you walked into the Coliseum and it was like, oh, let's go, boy. That was the coolest part.
I love fighting in the gyms because it actually felt like a spectator sport. Like I thought that part was sick. I fucking hated that you showed up and like you had to put on a uniform that made you look like a goddamn NASCAR, and you just had like 15 different sponsors on you or whatever. Like I thought that was so gross, man.
That was lame.
I hated that so bad.
Okay, I see these trees that he's talking about. I understand now. Yeah. I've been in a Pokemon mood recently. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go.
Know. You're finally sending back gifts to me.
I know.
It's great.
Every day I walk past this shelf here and I look at the Ultra Moon that is sitting on my 3DS games that I have never touched.
Good one.
I'm
dude.
like, ooh, every day I look at it, I'm like, is today the day?
It's
not been the day yet. It hasn't been the day yet.
I didn't play Ultra. I didn't play all of Ultra because I started it right after I beat like Base Moon. I was like, oh, I'll play Ultra Sun now. No, that's a bad idea. You gotta wait a little longer. The original Moon I thought was fucking excellent. Like that entire generation is so low key, great vibes for a Pokemon game.
Dude, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are so good,
and they're different.
Because you ride Luna, whatever, or Solgaleo through the wormholes, and you can catch all the legendary Pokemon that way. This is a funny story. I was so addicted to this and doing these wormholes and like grinding out the legendary Pokemon because the dopamine is such a hit when you see the legendary Pokemon show up, right? That I was running the karate studio at the time, and I would dead ass be like, all right, guys, just keep practicing. Go in the back room and play. These fucking little kids. They're just doing karate. I'm going to peek my head out. Like, all right, fucking here we go.
Everyone's still breathing? No broken bones? Sick.
Hey, Johnny, good job chopping that wood.
That's like the worst karate sensei of all.
Get over. Oh shit, Entei. Oh no.
God, get out of here.
Sorry, guys. No, I said I'm your sensei, not Entei.
Yeah,
not Entei. That's a true story.
I said Reggie Nice, not Reggie Ice. Two totally different things.
All right. Well, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we will have a lot more Pokemon talk in the next 2 weeks.
For sure.
But I think that wraps up this episode. Any closing thoughts, comments, concerns?
This is a good episode. I like this one.
It was good.
A lot to say.
I'm not predicting anything for this Nintendo Direct at all.
It's third party.
Metroid Prime 4, dude. Metroid Prime 4.
It's all isn't it all third party announcements?
Oh yeah, for the first half of 2024, which we're almost halfway through already.
That's a lot of calendar release dates, though. That's 12 weeks of possible gaming.
And like, I get it. Like, I'm all for announcing something and then releasing it right after that. I think that's a really cool way to do stuff. Plus, you only need like a couple months of hype anyway before people really get excited. But like, holy shit.
True.
The first half of 2024? How many games can you possibly have in the next 3 months, you know?
Well, that's all. It's all third party stuff. And like Mario vs. Donkey Kong just came out. That was like part of Nintendo's last summer presentation, right? That was where we heard about that. And so we still have Princess Peach, which comes out in March. And then I assume like the big summer game is going to be Paper Mario.
Yep.
Thousand Year Door remake, which is coming out this summer, which I am super looking forward to. But like that was supposed to take care of us for the first half of the year. So like now it's the third party's turn to, you know, pick up what Mario vs. Donkey Kong laid down as a beautiful foundation as
carry on the legacy.
Here's the best Mario platformer of the last calendar year.
Here's my prediction. All right, you guys ready for this? I bet they're gonna announce a new Super Monkey Ball game.
That'd be sick. I mean, there's one.
Isn't that awesome? Wouldn't that be so cool? Wouldn't that be so cool?
That happens.
No, that game is pretty perfect. Dark Souls 2 on Switch.
Oh, isn't that already come out on Switch?
I don't think so.
The first one did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense then.
There you have it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. There's our predictions. I guess we're going to come back and check on them. In fact, I bet all of them are true. So there you go.
That's true.
We're very smart. Yeah.
Well, Austin tells me I no longer need to put in an outro. So I don't know how to end these shows anymore. I can see ya.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Frameskip. Don't forget you can find the show on social media at frameskippod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow us each individually on Twitter. George is at Shortbox Summary, Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid, and I, Austin Eller, am at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. If you've got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to hear discussed on the next episode of Frameskip, you can do so by submitting it to us on social media. Email us at frameskippodcast@gmail.com or visit bit.ly/frameskipq. That's bit.ly/frameskipq. The show is typically live on YouTube every week, either on Tuesday or Wednesday. You can find our YouTube channel at bit.ly/frameskiplive. Don't forget to subscribe and be notified when we do go live, typically at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.